Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go one more, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Happy Greg Cody Tuesday to all who celebrate.
Yeah.
Mike Ryan last night at 1:30 in the morning, Stugotz, with a big giant smile on his face in bed, is just smiling time of my life because there was so much action in hockey and basketball. Great endings to the Nuggets game and the Sixers game and the Islanders game and the Bruins game.
And no one cares about the Cavs and the Magic. I mean.
That's true. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Does anyone care about the Cavs and the Magic? At Le Batard Show. Let's begin with the late game last night because a lot to cover there. Anthony Davis was extraordinary for 2.5 quarters. As good as you can play basketball. They had their chance to beat the Nuggets for the first time in 10 tries. The Nuggets shot 23% from three. You have to beat them when Jamal Murray is 9 for 24. But at the end of that game, on a night where Joel Embiid and Nick Nurse and LeBron would all be complaining about the officiating, with 11 seconds left, LeBron James had the wide open tie game three-pointer, wide open. His defender was sitting in the paint on his ass. He misses it, and then he deflects after the game, complaining about the officiating and the replay center, even though he's right. But he missed the shot that would have had him not talking about the replay center at all if he had made that shot. But I want to talk for a second about poor Anthony Davis. At any other time in basketball history other than the last 10 years, this human being would be celebrated throughout the land as the guy who's going to ruin basketball because what the hell is that doing? All of it on offense and defense. But on the day that he's complaining that the league hates him because he says they will not make him a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, Jamal Murray beats him toward the end of the game. Let's play first the post-game sound of Anthony Davis. He broke it down. Here's all you need to know about this game at the end as Jamal Murray, after, again, he went 9 for 24, but he was 8 for 23 before that last one, and he did it over Anthony Davis.
1 for 1 when it counted. I mean,
thank you, Stugotz.
You got it.
And here's Anthony Davis, an uncommon level of pissed off.
Can you take us through that last play, just what happened, what unfolded, what was, I don't know if you were screened or what happened on that last play?
Jamal Murray made a shot.
Now, I will tell you why he's that upset. Because at the end of that game, Stugotz, if you saw what happened, it's not just that Jamal made the shot. It's that Anthony Davis, in trying to block it, went stumbling right into all of the Nuggets who were celebrating on the bench. Ooh. So he's face first in a bunch of sweaty ass, in a sea of sweaty ass. And it's a sea of sweaty celebrating ass in the loudest arena you can hear.
Oh, the Mecca.
The Mecca was
rocking last night.
Wow,
it was pretty good. Yeah, when you're down 5 with 28 seconds left and you win by 3, that's like a mathematical riddle right there. That's what happened in the Knicks game.
That happens to the Knicks. They never do that. I mean, except the one time they did it last night, and the other time they did it with Larry Johnson. Grandmama.
What are we going to do about how we think of James Dolan, given how his teams are doing? His hockey team, he's never gotten bad owner on his hockey team, even though he is a legendarily bad owner. But now that the Knicks are relevant and they're winning that game in that uncommon fashion, which has Joel Embiid afterward, Stugotz claims that now it's not just Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick who are stealing his takes, but it's ESPN and the entire industry.
Well, I said it yesterday. I'm tired of Embiid. He's complaining every 10 seconds. It's an injury. It's a teammate. It's a referee. It's a bad call. We tried to call timeout. We didn't try to call timeout. It's never Joel Embiid's fault. And this morning, what do I wake up to? Now, I said that before last night's game. What do I wake up to this morning? Everyone's saying the same things I said about Embiid yesterday. Enough.
Well, here's Joel Embiid after the game, and I happen to agree with him that I think the Sixers are better if he's healthy, but now it's 9 straight games that this guy has been inefficient. He's not healthy. He's doing the best that he can, and here he is after the game, frustrated.
Home and try to turn this thing around.
We should be 2-0, so we good. We're gonna win this series. We gonna win this. We know what we gotta fix. We did a better job today, so we gonna fix it. But we're the better team, and we gonna keep fighting.
It's terrible body language.
I was gonna say
bad.
I've never heard a more confident words with the demeanor being as bad as it was.
His face has been crying since that ball from Kawhi Leonard was bouncing on the rim. He has been
stop crying since.
He has been somebody who has team results clearly underachieved. Not personal results, but team results. There's no reason that guy shouldn't be at the top of the Eastern Conference standing.
It's shocking to watch him out there. Essentially just be a decoy on the perimeter. He can barely move at times. And previously, throughout his career, if this was the Joel Embiid that you'd be getting, you just shut him down. But the Sixers have done that so much with this player. They have to start getting a return on this investment. But, man, it is rough to watch him.
It's rough to watch, but he also scored 34 points and had like 15 boards. So it's like, what do you do? Because it's tough to watch, but he's still producing.
He's very clearly physically labored by this. I don't know how much of that is putting it on for the cameras. I'm not accusing him of that because like the bottom line looks pretty good, even though he's doing it in a less efficient way. It's just odd what's going on over there. And you would think with a player, and this is gonna look, I've gained my fair share of weight too, but this guy's got a history of injuries, and every time he comes back he seemingly looks worse, and that I guess that makes sense. But if you're someone that's this fragile, you could use a dose of that heat culture, my friend, and get that body in some shape.
I've gained a bit of weight too, is the way that you entered
Caveat.
the fray
Was
there.
that a pitch?
I have too.
Just saying, I'm just saying, we all have. Like, we were all snacking watching Tiger King. That all happened to us, but I mean, he's got to take care of his body a little bit more.
It's interesting because what the Sixers are doing against the Knicks, it's kind of working. Like Jalen Brunson has not been good offensively. I mean, he's still getting rebounds and assists.
No, he's been bad.
He's been
Chris.
inefficient
Yes.
in both games.
Yep.
Like their game plan is working, and they're still down 2-0. Like it's just, I don't know. It's not good for them right now.
When Kyle Lowry looks to be in better shape.
It feels like Maxi's the best player on the floor right now. Like, I know Joel Embiid is the better player, but it feels like at this right now, Maxi's just doing whatever he wants at whatever point.
How about Hartenstein?
What a board last night. Huge board.
Oh, he made countless big plays. I mean, seriously. I have a top 5 plays from the final 47 seconds of the Knicks game last night.
You do?
I saw that
dig
board.
around for it.
I saw that board, and I was wondering, man, if Embiid is in there, if he's in the mix, he doesn't get that board.
I saw Sauce Gardner put up on X that he was sitting next to Chris Rock, and he was saying he talks just like he does in Everyone Hates Chris. I do feel like Chris Rock talks that way all the time wherever he is, that kind of volume on what he's saying. Are you ready? Any OLI from last night's game?
Yeah, I have 2. Again, this is from the final 47 seconds of the Knicks-Sixers game 2 at the Mecca.
If you were not watching, the Knicks were down 5 with 28 seconds left and won by 3. It would have been the most confusing math of the night if the Islanders hadn't been up 3 goals in an NHL playoff game and lost by 2 goals.
That hurt.
Wait, what?
That's right.
Yeah.
They were up. They were 81-0 in their history, being up 3-0 in playoff games before last night.
So they were up 3-0.
3-0, 3-1 into the third.
5-3.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
Gave up the tying goal, and then 9 seconds later gave up the go-ahead goal, and then like 60 seconds later gave up another goal. There were 3 goals in an 80-second span.
Stugotz, just circling back around before we get to your top 5 here off of the last 40 seconds of the Knicks game. If you're Anthony Davis through 2.5 quarters yesterday, you're playing a perfect basketball game. You're dominating the whole thing. You don't score a point in the fourth quarter, not a point. Your reputation, the guys on TNT are always calling you street clothes, even though you've played the whole season. Even though you have been a great fountain of youth for this last part of LeBron James's career, exactly what clutch management needed to put next to him in order to keep everything upright. But you've got this reputation as somebody who cannot be trusted. LeBron misses. You're in Denver. It's a hard place to win. The game's tied. There are 12 seconds left, and LeBron misses the wide open 3, and then it becomes about how Jamal Murray makes a shot over Anthony Davis. I've told you guys before, and this is the mentality of shooters. Tony's always saying this. Jamal Murray started his career 0 for 17. He began his career, he missed his first 17 shots, but of course he thought the 18th was going in. Last night, he's 8 for 23. I was telling Stugotz here before the show, you guys laughed at me when I told you in the bubble that Jamal Murray and Jokic were playing in the first round. They lost to Utah in the first round.
Yeah.
I was telling you, it's the best basketball I've ever seen in my life. Those 2 guys in the bubble.
But it was different basketball. That's why we laughed at you. I mean, it was bubble basketball. No fans, neutral court,
no flights. Everybody was
incredible.
I know,
that first
you
round.
walk to the court.
Yes, everybody was healthy. Everybody was rested.
Jimmy
Everybody
gave you a cup of coffee.
Everybody was without distractions, and it's the best basketball I've ever seen. In the first round of a bubble playoff game in a championship year that no one acknowledges was a championship year, that's when I saw the best basketball I've ever seen. When I'm like, how does anyone stop those 2 people doing that? Give me the Jokic, please, music so that I could, as I'm talking about Anthony Davis here, I could just give you the ho-hum Jokic stats from last night.
Jokic stat of the day, breaking records so often that we're all bored, so blasé. Jokic stat of the day. You know how they say you can get too much of a good thing? Well, what if they're right? And not that you care, but here's another boring-ass amazing thing that Nikola Jokic did recently. It's the boring Jokic stat of the day on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
27, 20, and 10. And when I say that about him, you can't be sure what the 20 is. You can't be sure.
You're right.
You think it's rebounds, but you can't be totally sure. It might be 20 assists. Against Anthony Davis, who, like I said, is a pretty good defensive player.
But are you wondering why we go after Anthony Davis after that loss and not LeBron James? Is that, I mean, no one's going to go after LeBron, right?
I understand why Anthony Davis has the reputation he does when he plays that game for 2.5 quarters, a perfect basketball game where he looks like the best basketball player you've ever seen and then doesn't do anything in the fourth quarter. I do think Mike Ryan has been talking about Wembanyama ruining the sport. I do believe that we're a little confused in real time because we should be acknowledging that Jokic might be the best basketball player ever.
Ever. No, I'm there. I'm there with him.
How could you be there?
And now Wemby's the only thing that can stop him.
Whoa! Hello?
Now I'm Team Wemby because it's the only way that you can stop Jokic.
Michael? Anyone?
No, I'm saying that this is the most unstoppable force. You can, I mean, he's got to get the accolades, right, Michael? You put his rings in a box. You put Jokic's rings in a box. I get you.
Rings plus minus.
He's on his way. So let me rephrase. Jokic is the most unstoppable force in the history of that sport that I have seen. Okay, because he's got the Shaq strength, but he's not a liability from the line. He's got playmaking ability like he's Magic Johnson. He can shoot. He's incredible. I don't know how you stop this person.
The plays that I remember when I think of Jokic is twice him swinging to his left beyond the three-point line and making a three with Anthony Davis in his face. But here's Darvin Ham, the Lakers coach, who has no answers for this, telling you that he has no answers for this.
You know, he knows how to kill you in a variety of different ways. And so You just got to put constant pressure on him, and that doesn't seem to bother him either. Taller than everybody, wingspan, skill set. It's like, I don't know what to do. You just got to go out there and try to be as disciplined as possible, aggressive and consistent, and have a next play mentality.
It's a good answer. What do you do?
You can't say that, though. If you're a head
Well,
coach.
what
He speaks.
What?
You
Yes,
can't
there
say
he
that.
is, Greg Cody.
First words.
Why can't you say I don't know what to do?
Because it conveys you've given up. I mean, you're 2 games into the series, you've given up. But I will say the last thing I want to hear is LeBron and Anthony Davis making excuses for losing to the defending champion. You're supposed to lose. You're a number 7 seed. You've spent so much time losing this season. You should be used to it by now and have a better attitude and how to deal with it.
You're up 20 in the third quarter. Close out the game.
Exactly.
I mean, no
right.
excuse.
Why are you making excuses?
Yep.
Everyone expects you to lose, including Lakers fans.
The greatest thing to me in sports is a desperate champion. And that's what the Nuggets were when they went down 20. And it's a lot of fun to watch that rallying at home. But that is the answer, the correct answer from Darvin Ham. Hey, Coach, what do you do? Shit. You either say shit or you simply shit right on the floor.
No, Greg is right. It is your job to figure it out. Come up with something, anything. No one else has ever done it, but come up with something. At least give the impression that you're trying to come up with
Lie.
something. Don't throw your hands in the air.
Lie.
Nobody else has ever done it, but you do it.
You do it.
You know what was cool about last night is throughout the Nuggets run, it was last year. It was a flat track, right? Is there a signature game that you can recall from that run?
They took everyone out within 6 games. Most of them were 5 and 4, right?
Yeah, so this is the first real postseason moment outside of lifting Larry O'Brien over their heads that they've had as a unit outside of that bubble. Like this is you could argue a different chapter in their history. It was cool to actually see them have a memorable postseason moment.
It's as happy as you will see Jokic because he doesn't show much in the way of emotion. He seems bored by his droning excellence. Can you imagine, though, just all of you listening to this, how wonderful it must feel to be him playing basketball? Because what he had last night, it was a bad game for him. 3 turnovers, where he grabs the ball, and Darvin Ham's telling you, yes, every game plan you see is just as much pressure as you can all over Jokic, and he just holds the ball over his head, swings his elbows, and never turns the ball over.
And you don't have the fear of his body breaking down like you have with Embiid or even Wembanyama because he doesn't take his feet off the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
He is cemented to the ground. You're right.
He runs with his feet on the ground. I don't know how he does that.
You are of the opinion that Darvin Ham just has to give you press conference platitude there. Just pretend like you have an answer for Jokic, even though no one has an answer for Jokic.
He can think that, and he's right. I mean, he's telling the truth, but you don't tell the truth in a situation like that, especially when your team is down 2-0. You give a platitude to the effect, we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
But
we
they're
got
not.
a veteran team. We're going to figure this out.
They're not.
But
They're
you
not.
lie. You got to lie there.
Give the impression.
You have to lie there to your team, to your fan base, to everyone.
Yes.
You want your leader to seem like the leader has a solution to the problem.
Right.
Once the leader's like, I don't know, then you're like, okay, well, you're useless to us. You should be fired, honestly. Like, you should fire. If you have someone that says, there's a problem, they're in charge, and I can't figure out a solution, and there is no solution, well, then I need to bring in a leader that can solve this problem. What are you doing? What is your purpose here if you can't solve the problem? That's your job. Solve the problem.
And that's what I don't like about your 2 veterans on the team making excuses after a loss. They should also flip the script and say, you know what, we're down 2-0. We still got a great chance. I believe in us.
Why are they excuses?
He misses the winning shot, and he's blaming the replay. He's blaming the officiating. Come on, that's not an excuse. Make a shot.
Soft. That was a soft foul on Murray.
Protect a 20-point lead. For crying out loud.
I mean, LeBron was pretty great. That was a great final quarter of basketball. That's up there with like the game 2 in San Antonio, that third quarter, which I think is still on an old DVR I have in the house. Game 2 of the NBA Finals, the final one of that Heat Big 3. There was a third quarter there where the ball barely hit the court, and it was just shot after shot made. Maybe 3 shots were missed the entire time. That fourth quarter last night in Denver is in that tier.
Is this where we're at, where LeBron now, where we're ranking his best losses? Like, get out of here.
Right,
He's
good
supposed to be
loss.
the best
Get
ever.
outta here.
Win.
Right.
Jordan never lost.
He's the oldest player in
Ever.
the league. Jordan was out of the league at this
You
age.
guys are really disrespecting the in-season tournament champion.
He knew when to get out, Jordan.
Mike, when you're in bed last night, smiling at 1:30 in the morning, saying time of my life, what is it that you're thinking of specifically?
I'm thinking of 1,100 hats being thrown on the ice as Hyman scores a hattie and McJesus has 5 assists. I'm thinking about LeBron James playing about as well as he can outside of that miss against Jokic, being totally unstoppable with a dude that is almost genetically engineered to stop him, and yet he can't, even though he's playing his best game. I'm thinking about Jamal Murray having that moment. I'm thinking about the crazy melee at the end for the board in New York with Kyle Lowry getting launch-panded Crash Bandicoot style out of the frame. It was an amazing day of sports. I'm thinking about Mark Stone's lacerated spleen. I'm thinking about the 80-second sequence in Carolina where you want to see a building that just absolutely erupts. I've never heard a hockey building as loud as I heard in Raleigh last night. It was an incredible day of sports, starting with the Milan Derby throughout the very end of L.A. Edmonton.
I think it's a derby.
Do you only think about what happened that day, or do you move forward and think, oh, I got a Panther game tomorrow night. This is
You know what the
great.
next
This
thing
is
I
the
do?
best time of the sports calendar.
Final whistle blows in Edmonton, and I open up my schedule.
Yeah.
And I take a look at the slate
Oh,
the
boy.
following day. I don't know if you've seen this slate.
I love a slate.
Wow.
What's going on with Messi? I haven't heard anything about him in months. Yeah, isn't there season going on?
They're at the top of the East.
Did we just forget about that team?
Maybe you have. He scored.
We never talk
done
about
well.
them.
He's got 6
Biggest
goals.
soccer star in the world. He's
Doesn't
right
he-
here. No one talks about
Doesn't
it.
usually go well when we try to talk about it.
How'd you end up at Messi, given what he just said?
Because we're talking about a big sports world, and I saw Gino
Fair
was
question.
walking around with
Yeah.
a Royal Caribbean jersey on, and I was
so
like,
you just had a thought because someone was wearing a jersey in the other room. That's
Well, I
what
mean, we
happened.
spent a lot of time on Messi.
yeah,
last
we're
year.
talking
We
about
did.
the
No, but that's
derbies
not
and the
what we're
sports and
talking
everything
about.
that's going on.
That's not what we're talking about.
And
right
he was
now.
asking why. Fair
Yeah.
question.
Hey,
Billy makes a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Billy
Thank
makes
you,
a
Greg.
great point
Yeah.
because no matter what else is going on, the biggest story, the biggest star in the world is still Lionel Messi,
Exactly
who
right.
happens to play for Miami. And to Billy's point, although he's having a pretty good season,
Thank you, Greg.
even though they rest him a lot and he's injury prone.
He's having a very
now,
good
like I say.
season.
He's
Injury
got like
prone.
6 goals, I think,
Yeah.
in 5 or 6.
And in Miami, he's got a
MLS
ton of
matches.
injuries.
Thank you. And we're talking about all the championship prospective teams down here. I mean, the one with the best shot might be Inter Miami. We're not even talking about them.
Correct.
The one with the best shot is the Florida Panthers.
No. Hockey playoffs are a different animal, as
Yeah.
you know.
That's a stacked
Stanley Cup
NHL.
playoffs. Mhm.
It's a brutal NHL.
Oh.
Let
A
me
brutal
play.
road to hoe.
Let me play from 92.5 FM the radio call last night in Denver, Stugotz, because you've got LeBron missing the 3, and then Denver's coming back up the court, and the Lakers have a foul to give.
Three-pointer LeBron. Missed it. Rebound Porter. There's the stop. Over to Jamal Murray. They have to foul. They have to foul. He's at the midcourt circle. 4 seconds. 3 seconds left. Why are they not fouling? Jumper Murray. Got it at the horn. Denver mounts the comeback. They come back from 20 points down. They win game number 2. 101 to 99 is the final. And the Lakers can take that L on the way out.
Buzzer beaters are the best, man. But
I love a good
but-
radio call,
but
man.
buzzer beaters at home. Buzzer beaters at home,
Are
because
great.
that sounds vastly different. The announcer can summon that energy, but the crowd lifts an announcer at home a little bit more than that.
Should they have fouled? That guy was pretty certain they should have
Hey, you
fouled.
play straight up. You got 7 seconds of it. You go foul and then do the same thing.
Reggie
over again.
Miller was saying the exact opposite.
Yeah, well, Reggie, you know.
It's just funny, the same play happening, and this guy's like, you gotta foul, and Reggie Miller's like, can't foul here.
You know what else I was thinking about at 1:30 a.m. as I went to sleep very quickly? My final thought was, remember when Amin El-Hassan said March Madness, the first 2 rounds, were the best thing on the sports calendar? What?
Well,
What?
Mike,
What is he doing there?
What? Asinine. This is amazing. Sports all around.
I agree with what you're saying in general, but the problem with your vantage point is every day for you gambling is March Madness from noon to midnight.
Oh, from a volume standpoint, like game 83.
For
You have him stopping at midnight.
No, but
huh?
I'm just saying that he does every day that way. And so when we come and visit on a random Thursday at noon, he's like, get out of here. I've already got 3 bets in the Bundesliga. The Foreigner with a big shot for the Knicks last night.
Oh, yes.
After a miss, too. Shooter's mentality, Dan.
Yep.
You know what that means. Next one's going in.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo Torre going to join us here in a moment. Got Stugotz's top 5 things that happened in the
We're
last
talking about the 2-guard from Bologna.
40 seconds of the Knicks game.
47
last night.
seconds. That's a 5.
Okay, sorry. Somebody writes in, what is up with Dan claiming to be a hardcore Miami guy throughout his entire literal career to now where he keeps having on Boston and New York guys and keeps slurping them up and giving them a platform?
Mm-hmm. Fair question.
Sam Morrell joining us later as our Knicks correspondent later in the show. Stugotz, OLI, last 47 seconds.
Yeah, first I want to say this is the Isaiah Hartenstein block of Therese Maxey top 5 plays from the final 40 seconds of the Knicks-Sixers game 2 at the Mecca.
47 seconds,
yes.
That's a fine.
Yes, I said 47
No,
seconds.
you just said 40 seconds.
You said 40, I said 47.
You just said
Tomato,
40.
tomato. I mean,
We should get bogged down.
We
on
agree
this.
to disagree.
I'll play it back for you if you want, because you just said 40 seconds. You
Okay.
just did it.
All right.
Bogdanovich.
OLI, Stugotz.
The Jalen Brunson prayer.
That's OLI?
That set the whole thing up. Had no business going in. He made 1 3, I think, the entire game. That was a prayer. The prayer was answered.
They got a bounce. They got a bouncing, bouncy bounce.
Yeah.
Not since Allen and Houston have they gotten such a bouncy bounce.
It was a great bounce. That was a great recall by you. The Houston bounce.
Still OLI, or are you going to number 5?
OLI. Kyle Lowry missing the second free throw. Set the whole thing up. Could have been up 6. They were only up 5.
I urge you all to look at the scrum under the basket and just watch Kyle Lowry, 38 years old, how he springs out of the melee, away from the basketball, into the crowd. Number 5.
The awful, horrible inbound play call, courtesy of Nick Nurse and Kyle Lowry.
I thought it was the execution that was bad there.
It's my list.
It was number 4.
The Hartenstein rebound off the first miss from the Italian kid from Delaware.
What a board.
Yeah, big board.
That's what Hartenstein does.
He does more than that.
Number 3.
The Hartenstein pass to OG after grabbing that rebound off the miss from the Italian kid from Delaware.
You want to try his last name?
Nope.
Number 2.
The OG pass to the Italian kid from Delaware.
And number 1.
The Italian kid from Delaware draining that 3 after missing the first 3. The Stones of DiVincenzo.
Pablo Torre, and
What a
Pablo
game.
Torre finds out is skyrocketing up the charts. He is still lightheaded with delight from everything that happened last week, where in 2010, the Knicks were in a different place they are in today. So what, after all of the fanfare, Pablo, what were the highlights of releasing that LeBron recruitment video that featured the Sopranos?
So first highlight for me is something that happened about 30 seconds ago, which is when you pronounced the word melee as melee. Did anyone else catch that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
one of his
noticed
things.
that.
Mike did, yeah.
Fine.
Okay. All right. The second thing I want to go to is something that happened last night, and I'll get to the video through the lens of all of this. But it's, if you want evidence of Dante DiVincenzo being a true American, there's a tweet that he posted, and it's dangerous to go through people's tweets, of course, from like 15 years ago. August 17th, 2011. Okay, my next finds out investigation, maybe even bigger than the Sopranos tape, is how Dante's dad feels about the fact that his son tweeted this, quote, "To my dad, I'm a pussy now, question mark, because I don't want to play effing soccer, question mark." If you want to know how American Dante DiVincenzo is, know that he once said this to the general public about how much he resented his dad trying to force him to play soccer. So if Dante's dad is out there, just know that I'm looking for you, and I think there's a real story here.
I don't feel like you answered my question at all, though.
He didn't.
Didn't bother. My question was about the feedback and the results of your latest investigation that went viral.
There are lots of things that I've enjoyed about that tape. I've enjoyed that CNN covered it on television. They excerpted my appearance on this very show. Loved it. Loved the fact that I've heard from LeBron's camp about it. I've heard from people inside of the Knicks about all of that stuff is good. The thing that I think about, though, is that watching these games, it's like very clear what the Knicks should have done. The Knicks in 2010 should have actually just featured in some real way the fact that the Garden at its best, and Stugotz, you know this, the Garden at its best is actually unparalleled. Like, the Knicks pitch in 2010 was so about celebrity. Hang out with the famous people. You can meet all of these. You can meet Harvey Weinstein. You can meet Donald Trump. Cool. But the thing about the Knicks right now, and Leon Rose was in the room, LeBron's agent, in the room for that pitch, and he's running this team right now. What the Knicks have, and they've always had, is the possibility that a playoff game in the Garden full of maniacs is going to be so much better than any celebrity-driven pitch. And so the Knicks realized, hey, we don't need to sell celebrity in that same thirsty way anymore. Everybody has celebrity. Celebrity has been globalized. And so, yeah, let's just actually focus on the side talk people outside the arena. Like, that's so much more fun than what the Knicks tried to do. And so, yeah, I'm just struck by how different it is now as the team is being run totally under different management.
You've written a lot about the process. You are associated with the process. Here is the only good thing that the process has produced. Joel Embiid is the center of all of that losing on purpose. Look at this body language after this game and listen to what he's saying and tell me what you do with this.
home and try to turn this thing around.
We should be 2-0, so we good. We're gonna win this series. We gonna win this. We know what we gotta fix. We did a better job today, so we gonna fix it. But we're the better team, and we gonna keep fighting.
We're the better team, Pablo.
Yeah. What do you want me to do, guys? Do you want me to say that the process was a waste? Do you want me to say that Joel Embiid shouldn't feel that way? Yeah, look, does he feel like the way that Stugotz feels when I talk about politics on this show? And he's sort of like burying his head in his hands, and he's like, well, I guess it's an important conversation. I'm glad we're having it. Like, what do you want? He's supposed to feel that way. He's supposed to feel terrible. And if you want somebody who is going to pretend like they don't feel the weight of all of the pressure on them in that way, then yeah, you want someone who's a better actor than Joel Embiid, who is famously not a good one. But yeah, it sucks, man. The Sixers, look, the saddest part of this, the Sixers lodged this complaint after the game where they said, we're going to protest the NBA and the referees because there are all these calls that were missed.
Daryl Maury.
The Tyrese Maxey. It's classic Daryl. And I don't even have the energy to be like angry on their behalf anymore. Win games. I'm sorry to sound again like Stugotz at the end, but win some goddamn games,
my man.
Please.
Yeah.
Really, you don't have the energy anymore. Just I want to see what we're dealing with here. You're a professional gas bag. You took
tired.
so many laps because you thought you were responsible for coining it the process.
He's figuring stuff out, Dan. Cut him some slack.
And now you don't have the energy when he's broken down to the signature piece from the process. You don't have the energy to defend it.
They should have won that game. Joel Embiid should have done something. Look, I've said this to you guys before. What I don't have the energy for is just repeating the same take I have about Joel Embiid. Okay? Like, Joel Embiid is the process. He's the whole key to this thing. Tyrese Maxey, as I say, is a revelation. Tyrese Maxey, when you watch him, he's exactly what a video game character that I control would play like. He's incredibly fast. He can get to the hoop at will, all that stuff, deep threes. He's tremendous. He was sick. He was great. Joel Embiid is the guy. And I'm trying to... It's just obvious what needs to happen. Joel Embiid needs to step up in a big game. And it just sounds like a cliche. It sounds like a cliche, and it's totally true, Dan. So, yeah, I'm tired. I'm just tired of being the prophet of the process. I am.
The other option is that they rushed Embiid back from his surgery and that he shouldn't even be playing and that they should sit him.
Yeah, I mean... But this is why, yes, on some level, yes, it's true that Joel Embiid is playing hurt. Joel Embiid should not be out there. And yet, this is the exact reason why Joel Embiid exists. This is why the process happened, is for moments like this. And yeah, look, it's weird, man. It's weird for me to watch this series. I grew up in New York. I left the Knicks as a fan base because of James Dolan. And I joined a team that lost on the way to winning, and they haven't won nearly enough. And so I'm caught here like a divorced dad who's like looking at their kids being like, I guess I love both of you, but I hate one of you more because of stuff you did before. And now the one that I love more is disappointing me. Like, it's just, I'm tired. I'm just tired.
You can't come back, by the way.
I've been told this.
Your fandom.
I've been told this.
I just don't understand how you've arrived at a fandom that is tired.
Have you watched the Philadelphia 76ers, Dan? Have you watched it? I have been every year. Look, what I am hoping for, of course, is what Greg ultimately just snuck in there, which is that Joel Embiid is healthy enough to be evaluated on his own terms. Until then, what I am doing is parrying and fending off people who want to litigate the goddamn process every time, even though it was 5 general managers ago.
You don't need to keep using the Lord's name in vain just because your fandom is in vain.
Pablo, Joel Embiid is 30 years old. I understand, I guess, because Sixers fans or supporters are naturally predisposed to shut him down the second that you see him hobbled. But this is what he's out there for. As you mentioned, there comes an age in an NBA pro's career where you realize this is the prime. This is the window. We're not really going to elevate ourselves. He has to be out there.
The window is right now, and if you guys remember a moment from Game 1, which I believe is the most incredible moment in these NBA playoffs so far, among all of the things that have been so great.
Yeah, the dunk.
Last night.
The dunk off the backboard.
Dunk off the backboard
Stupid
into a
play.
collapse onto the floor, into the idea that everybody who roots for Joel Embiid made peace with the fact that, of course, this is how the story ends. Everybody watching that was like, yep, that's it. Cool. That's of course. And so the tiredness comes from the fact that emotional cycle in miniature in 5 seconds has been playing out for years now in macro. And so it's just a numbness at this point to like, oh, the greatest thing that the Sixers have ever had in terms of a player as a result of the greatest pain they've endured on purpose can just evaporate like cotton candy in water. Even though he's doing the coolest thing you've ever seen, literally a microsecond ago. That's the experience of watching the Sixers for years. That's the experience of watching them in these 2 games where victory and life seems to be in constant tension with defeat and death.
It can't be the best moment of the playoffs when there was a buzzer beater last night by Jamal Murray, but it was a pretty excellent moment. Pablo Torre finds out.
He brought it home, Dan. He did. He stuck the landing.
It's the name of his podcast. You should find it. Get it as part of the Le Batard and Friends Network. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, guys. I hate you.
I need a ruling from the group here on blustery Stugotz and what kind of powers he has to tell Pablo that he's not allowed back on the Knicks bandwagon when, for 14 years, he's been the quietest Knicks fan in the world. He's got a microphone every day, and you would have no evidence
Why
for
would I talk
14
about them?
years,
Right. Yeah.
no evidence that he's paying any attention to what's happening with the Knicks. Yesterday, what'd you call him? Joshua Hart? What did you call her? Jonathan Hart?
Jason, I think.
Jason Hart.
Jason
yeah.
Hart.
Yep.
I don't know what it was, but I have in front of
It
me.
was
What
Jason.
what is your ruling? What should we be doing here, Greg Cody, as it relates to Stugotz and his Knicks fandom? Is he allowed to have it publicly back now?
Yeah.
Hold on. If I can offer this to Greg Cody, since he's deciding this. I never left the Knicks for another team. I didn't talk about the Knicks because the Knicks gave me no reason to talk about them. So I didn't leave them for Philadelphia.
Right.
If you're going to leave your team, you leave for a West Coast team. You don't leave for a team right down the turnpike. I mean,
Different conference, yeah.
I think that hatred and disappointment is the real.
I think you've said enough on this.
Real currency of being a fan.
Quit hogging the mic.
Okay.
Let some other people talk.
That's what you need to be a true fan. You have to express extreme disappointment and even hatred.
But that was not what he was doing. He was just hiding. He was claiming to be a Heat fan. He would say "we" all the time with the Heat. I have in front of me, should we test his knowledge? I have in front of me 6 Knicks questions. 6 pretty easy, I think, Knicks questions if you're somebody who's watched the Knicks at all this year or the last few years.
I'm not here to take a quiz.
There you go. Thank you.
How many should he have to get right in order to be allowed to be blustery, boisterous Knicks fan here on our show?
Well, 6 is bad because it could end in a tie. It should have been an odd number.
I doubt very much that he's going to get 3 correct. But
I
we
have
will
faith
see.
in him. I think he gets at least 4 right.
So should that be the standard?
How about the standard being don't leave your team for Philadelphia?
Yeah,
How's that
that's true.
sound? Okay.
I'm just saying, Stugotz, you've been for 14 years, you've had a microphone.
Yes.
At that microphone yesterday, you told some New York radio gas bags that if you had an appearance near them, you'd draw 5,000 more people than they would.
Correct.
You have been a proud, loud New Yorker for a long time.
Yeah.
But the Jets have beaten some of this out of you, and you've been quiet about the Knicks. Like there is next to no Knicks talk for a decade and a half from you here.
I know, but give me a single reason outside of that star from Maury Stoudemire, who was the MVP after 6 weeks, why I would talk about the Knicks. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, what reasons have they given me to talk about them?
Because you're a fan, because you're upset, because usually the things that you care about, few though they are, usually they get some passion out
More
of
than
you.
that, though, he's a good teammate. This was a Heat show for a long time because of the Big Three, and he knew the assignment. So he said, you know what? I'm going to do what's best for the show, what's best for my team, what's best for Dan. I'm going to talk about the Heat. And it may hurt me. We may be in the same conference, but I'm going to do what I have
Unselfish.
to do.
Team player.
If I could describe Stugotz in one word, it would be unselfish.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah.
Right? It was also good for my bank account.
Yeah. Also, if you're going to betray your team for a winning team, not for another loser of a team.
Right.
But it hasn't applied to football. He talks plenty of Jets.
I mean, listen, we love to talk about the NFL here. We don't talk about regular season basketball.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I mean, you guys do, but
Wait
your
a
team,
minute.
we've had a reason to talk about the Heat.
Aware of what the national media landscape is with regards to the Knicks, despite their lack of achievements?
Been laying low, Mike.
Name the Knicks starting 5 from the first 2 playoff games. That should be a pretty easy one,
The
right?
first 2 playoff games, OG, Brunson, Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo. I got to think about this for a second. Mitchell Robinson.
Ooh, Josh Hart. Jason Hart.
Jason Hart?
As you
Yeah.
like to call him.
2 centers.
Big
Mitchell
lineup.
Robinson and
Twin
Hart.
Towers.
Hey,
Twin Towers.
Going with Twin Towers right off the bat.
Okay.
Have there been Twin Towers at Elijah and Sampson?
You have to. No, the Sixers weren't expecting that at all.
4 to 5, though, huh?
Yeah, you got 4 to 5.
That's 60%, Dano.
What 2 players were traded for OG Anunoby?
OG. Whoa, who was traded? Let me think about this for a second. They play for the Raptors now. Who was traded for OG? Landry Fields. Who else was it? Oh, Steve Novak.
That was a time.
Novak was Hauser before Hauser.
Novak was excellent.
Novak shot from three so that Hauser could
Corner threes.
soar.
For your life, though.
What
Novak or Bird?
Landry Field's the GM for the Hawks.
Yeah.
It's Quickly and R.J. Barrett. What is?
We don't miss him. So.
What is Deuce McBride's first name?
Ooh.
He just discovered that Deuce McBride played for
He's
him
good.
in
He's
game
a player.
one.
Yeah.
In game one.
Danny.
You still think he's going to get three, Billy?
Bake.
You think I'm going to?
Well, this is recency bias. I mean, if we went historical Knicks, I feel like he'd be all over it. This is just how do we trick him now?
Name one assistant coach on the Knicks staff.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. Tom Thibodeau.
There's one that's obvious.
Is there? Let me think about this for a second. Not John Starks. Not Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson should be an assistant. Should be a head coach somewhere, Mark Jackson.
How
We'll
did
get to that
Jalen
another
Brunson
day.
get there, Stugotz?
Rick Brunson.
There you go.
Oh,
Okay, he's
wow.
one of the assistant coaches.
I win.
Yeah. Okay, you got one. One of four is not winning.
And I got 60% on the first one.
Which two players did? That's 80%. Which two players did the Knicks acquire from Detroit at the trade deadline? One being a veteran sharpshooter, and the other a guard who had previously played for them just 2 seasons ago.
Tough questions.
Which deadline?
They're not tough questions.
I mean,
If you're a
multi-part
Knicks
questions
fan-
here.
If you're a
Jeez,
Knicks
if there's a
fan-
comma in your
Crazy
question, it's a trick.
Which deadline?
The trade deadline.
This past deadline? 2 from the Pistons? I mean, I need to hear it in a sentence.
The Knicks' last first-round pick was this forward in 2020 out of the Atlantic 10 Conference.
Say it again.
The Knicks' last first-round pick was this forward in 2020 out of the Atlantic 10 Conference.
The A10. Huh. Who was it? I'm confused. Am I doing the A10, the 2 Pistons? Which one am I doing here?
You're just getting everything wrong. It's I don't know. I think he should have his fandom revoked. I do.
I mean, I'm
don't.
still here.
If you don't know anything about your team and they're already in the playoffs and you're discovering players, I mean, are we a fan? I'm
have
dead
to
serious.
watch the regular season to be a fan
you have
of the
to know
Knicks.
something about your team.
I knew 80% of the first question.
You have to. I think that most people listening to this, if I ask them those kinds of questions about their team, someone they claim is their team, that's
Right.
not very hard to do, to have some knowledge. Aren't the roots of caring about all of these things that you get to know Hartenstein's name, you get to know Brunson's story.
I get to
you
know
do it over the
Hartenstein's
course
name when Hartenstein does something in a big spot, and he finally did. That's how I learned his name.
New York has fallen in love with this team because it does what it does in those scrums. They play very hard for Thibodeau, even though all the players in the league say they don't want to play for Thibodeau. They play very hard. Hartenstein, that's exactly what he does. It's just neck first. I'm going to go grab that offensive rebound. I'm going to defend you.
Hartenstein.
I'm going to be super willful at all times. Do you guys think I have this wrong? What's the bare minimum point of entry on knowledge you have to have something that resembles sports passion?
I don't think you have to be an expert. I really don't. I
That's
think-
not expertise.
Dan, I put up with
That's so far from expertise.
No. I hate this argument. I put up with so many miserable Knicks seasons. So sorry I didn't pay attention to the regular season. Why would I pay attention to them? They have given me no reason to. I have my entire life. Same with the Islanders, same with the Mets, same with the Jets.
Stugotz, they were a 2 seed this year. Like, what do you mean no reason? They're a 2 seed this year.
I'm not even certain in their heyday. When Riley was the coach, I could tell you the name of an assistant or a guy they picked up at the trade deadline from the Pistons. I mean, what do you want from me?
Oh,
Who are you, the commissioner of sports fans suddenly? I mean...
I just think that there is to be someone who's at a microphone.
Name 7 Panthers.
The other day, Stugotz, you did this. You did this the other day where you're arguing. Kendrick Perkins is saying of Barkley and Shaq, they're not watching the Knicks games. It's obvious they're not watching the Knicks games. And the argument you made, because all the arguments you make are based on what it is that you should be allowed to do. The argument that you made is that people talking about teams on microphones on behalf of the media shouldn't have to watch the games. That's the argument that you made. You're pro laziness at every turn. I'm not telling you how to be a fan. I'm asking you and everyone in the audience, what's the point of entry on what your knowledge needs to be so that you can say, Pablo, you're not allowed to be a fan anymore because I'm the one who's here governing who's allowed to be a fan.
Hold on. Yeah. I know what the difference is here, right? Pablo, what he did was to embarrass the Knicks. Stu would never do anything to embarrass the Knicks like that. And that's the difference between a fan and somebody who is just here to hang out when it's cool and then go hang out with Joel Embiid when it's cool. Stugotz, if you cut him open, orange and whatever, blue.
Thank you. Orange and blue, yes.
I was going to say orange and green. I'm thinking of UNM. I don't know.
I got the colors right. How about that?
If you cut him open, it'd be orange and just greed. It just greed
would be orange and green.
No, not green. No, just greed. Just requests for more would spill out of his blood. It was a nice day, though, a nice evening for New York basketball to win that way. To go up 2-0 against the team you should be afraid of, because I do agree with Joel Embiid. I do believe that the Sixers are better, even with all those old broken parts around Embiid and Maxey.
He has to be healthy, though. Mm-hmm. Him unhealthy, I don't think the Sixers are better than the Knicks. If he's healthy, I totally agree with that. But he's not healthy.
He's not.
And that's obvious.
And they're up by 5 with 28 seconds left yesterday to tie the series.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, you haven't said very much this hour, and Tuesdays are an important day to get your voice heard.
Well, to what he said, you don't have to be, you can be a casual expert. That's my opinion. Expertise doesn't necessarily mean you know extraneous arcane details like who was traded at the deadline 3 years ago. It's unnecessary.
This is a new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
We're online, and it's time for a throwback chat with legendary television icon Maury Povich. You might remember Maury from his show, A Current Affair, and later, The Maury Povich Show. Maury's father was also a talented sports writer. Dan knew him, and I kid you not, the man's name was Shirley. This is the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
During your time on A Current Affair, can you say that this sound from A Current Affair is the best sound ever created in TV news?
Yeah, that's the famous ka-chung that was named after my wife, and it is for all the purebreds. That is the swish of a golf club and the sound of an old-time elementary school construction paper cutter put through a synthesizer.
Ka-chung, named after Connie Chung, his wife. I did not know the things you learn on this show. Why is it called a ka-chung? She's a serious journalist.
Because underneath it all, she liked to laugh.
Well, what does she make, Maury, of your television show? Because you've taken a turn toward, how do I even say this? Here, you say it for me, because your television show
Wait. Come on. You don't think that, I get into deep social issues on my show? Of course I do.
You do, but I mean, it's
I just do it at in a different bent. That's all.
Do you have a show or topic you've done, and afterward you thought to yourself, "I need to go take a shower. I shouldn't have done that show."
No, I mean I can turn it. I mean I can usually take most topics. I'll tell you the most shocking aspect of like the paternity shows, which are really our signature shows. The most shocking moment in all of talk was when I read the results of a DNA test on twins, and I said, this man who you're accusing of being the father is the father of one, but not the other.
Ooh.
How's that?
That's good television right there is what that is.
That's the fraternal twin syndrome. 1 in a million could be two fathers.
I was surprised. Maury Povich with us on 790, 70 years old. You're a scratch golfer, huh? A scratch golfer.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I was down in your area last week, and I surely wasn't a scratch golfer. I played at Indian Creek. They have a great two-man team invitational there, and I've never really competed there. I've played there before, and it's a marvelous course in Miami, up there around 194th Street, and I didn't. Me and my partner shot about 6 over par for 3 days, but we didn't play well. But it was windy.
Well,
that was my excuse.
How you must have beaten some legitimate, good, great players.
Well, a few, but not many.
Well, give us some stories. You got to have some good stories.
Well, my proudest moment in golf was in 2000. I qualified for the United States Senior Amateur, and I made match play. And Kornheiser was doing a show on ESPN. And called up and basically said, if my father had been gone for 2 years, and he said, if your father was alive today, even he wouldn't believe this.
Well, because, I mean, scratch golfers, Stugotz, that's not messing around.
Well, I'm not a scratch. I'm about a 1.3 or 4
Well,
now.
That's still not messing around, though, Maury.
Well, the problem is that in golf, it is so crazy that at my age, I still think I can get better. I mean, that's the craziest. I want to tell you something. I still don't believe that Charles Barkley was at one time about an 8 or a 9.
It's hard to believe with that swing. That's the ugliest swing you've ever seen, I got to imagine.
Well, I have, but you know what Charles does, even with that swing? Because I play with him every year in Tahoe. I don't play with him, but in the same tournament. But on the range, he gives what we call walk-bys. In other words, he'll walk by everybody on the range and start talking about how they can improve their swing.
Well, what do you say to the critic who says that the Jerry Springerization of television, the Morton Downey Jr.ing of television, that you're contaminating the airwaves? Now,
well, I mean, I think anybody who watches talk TV can draw a real the distinction between me and Jerry. I mean, Jerry and I are long-time acquaintances, and we like each other, but he'll tell you that, I mean, he's a different show. I mean, he's a theater, and he's wrestling, and I have people on with real problems.
Maury, thank you for coming on.
Dan, I just want to give you this accolade. I used to love you on Sundays on ESPN when you wrote and delivered that stuff early in the morning, and I'm only sorry my father was never around to hear that, because that was pure greatness.
Thank you. That is very, very flattering. I appreciate that coming from you. And
my pleasure.
I also love the Kachung. I can't believe we learned, Stugotz, that it's called the Kachung. It's named after his wife. That has to be a career achievement for her, doesn't it? I mean, that she got that sound named after her.
That's it. Thanks so much.
What do you think of my work, Maury?
It's fair.
Kachung. I've got two different things happening in this room as it regards the Miami Heat, Stugotz. I told you that Mike Ryan didn't even pay attention to the Heat game on Sunday. He went to the Panthers game instead. And I believe this is a wise coping mechanism for certain Heat fans to simply not care anymore so it doesn't hurt. But Greg Cody is saying, and Greg Cody is a longtime Miami Herald columnist. I don't know if it still means something in this day and age when the columnist calls for a firing or when the columnist calls for a shakeup. But longtime Miami Herald columnist Greg Cody, who does not often do this, came in here today and said of the Miami Heat, dynamite time.
Yeah.
And then he did like the old cartoon Dynamite
TNT.
where
Yeah.
I don't even know if it is cartoon. Is it still done that way? It can't be the way they implode hotels in Vegas, right? By still pressing down on something that would like that would help you that would help you inflate a bicycle tire,
Yes,
like
bring it back.
a bicycle pump.
Right.
You're saying dynamite time for the Miami Heat, and I want to slow down for a second because you're a year behind Mike on this. Mike was telling you last year, blow it up, and then they make the miracle run to the finals, and then this postseason feels over because before it started. I don't hear a lot of people anywhere saying that the Heat can get to even 5, even though I think they actually can, because you underestimate all the things these people are. But winning a game in the first round is not what the standard is, and they're not as good as Boston.
Right. And it's important to note full strength with playoff Jimmy. They're not as good as Boston.
Well, they weren't this regular season, but they have been for the last 5 years. They've been better. Like, you can say that, but for the last 5 years, they've been better than Boston.
Right. Yeah, I'm dealing with current reality, not what was. And I just think that if a 35, and he'll be 35 next year, if a 35-year-old injury-prone Jimmy Butler is your best player, you have no chance to compete for a championship in the NBA.
Well, they just did last year. That was last
They
year.
did last year, David. Boston got a lot better, and the Heat did not.
But that was last. It's
But
not
it wasn't
even-
particularly competitive last
No,
year.
I mean, you saw the final. I mean, they didn't compete with Denver.
They beat the Boston Celtics and competed. You said compete for the championship. It's literally what they were doing in the last 5 games.
They also almost blew a 3-0 lead.
There were only 2 teams doing it.
People forget they almost blew a 3-0 lead in that series.
Boston got a lot better. Miami got worse. Miami did not get better. They did the opposite. And there's a reason why Damian Lillard would have helped this team. They needed the help. They can't
Can I stop
win
you
like
for
this.
just a second? Just because they were better this year when they were healthy. They were not healthy all year. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were not missed.
I disagree. I know that you can make the long-term plan, the long-term planning of building in the assets of Jaquez.
They were deeper this year.
What?
This team was deeper. It just got hurt.
I think the big improvement is Duncan Robinson, but no, they weren't better. They were there was a gulf that was established early on with Boston winning their offseason and Miami very clearly losing theirs. And that gulf, as the season progressed, got wider, in my opinion.
Yes.
I can't dispute that Boston has separated itself. The part I'm disputing is they had the same regular season record as last year with more injuries this year. Like, Jaquez has given them something that Strus and Vincent could not.
I mean, I think we're splitting hairs. If last year's team plays this year's team, and even if I give you a healthy Jimmy Butler, I think Jimmy is that much more diminished. I think last year's team smokes this year's team.
But last year's team was also in the play-in. Like, this isn't – you shouldn't be aspiring to barely make the play-in.
Last year was an anomaly. To go from where they went to the final was an aberration. It's nothing you can live by. And they're trying to do it again with now an injured Jimmy Butler. If I ask you this, let's run it back. Let's bring back essentially the exact same Heat team. how confident are you that they're going to compete for a championship? Because I'm not.
They're saying that this offseason they're actually positioned pretty well. There's stars like Donovan Mitchell and people like Damian Lillard that they've previously missed out on that may not extend, certainly in Mitchell's case. So they're primed to take one of these guys with a year left on their deal because their franchise that they're at presently are frustrated because they won't get the long-term commitment. And I guess in that respect, maybe you hold the line and see what's available to you, because the plan of repeatedly going into a season with the intention to improve the roster, which has been the intention every offseason, and yet they fail repeatedly. And last year, their contenders in the Eastern Conference got better. They benefited from the Miami Heat failing in certain pursuits. So maybe it's not time to blow it up. You see the landscape. You see if the Donovan Mitchell is out there. But Jimmy Butler cannot continue being the best offensive player on this team.
Yes.
That is without a shadow of a doubt.
Let me stop you. Right on.
Right on. Mm-hmm. That's I'm bringing back right on.
And you know it.
And you know it. That's right. Right on. We used to say that a lot, man. Mm-hmm. Back in high school, I lived on right on and groovy. We used to say groovy. Heat do not have a groovy roster right now. Jimmy Butler cannot be your best player. If he's your second, third best player, you got a competitor. You're competing.
They were in the finals last year.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, that's the trump card, though, right? It's like, only if they were better. Wait, last year they were better.
But next year, card, though.
But next year Jimmy Butler's 2 years older than he was when they were in the finals.
Yes.
I agree. I'm a Wolves guy now.
Just look at the highlights from last year. Jimmy Butler looks like a different person. Yeah, they made it to the finals last year. And that gets to be the trump card in every debate with an irrational Heat fan. When you want to counter with, they were also 3 minutes away from the lottery, it don't matter. They had a historic run. Amazing. But don't let that fortify a bad process right now, because this roster is simply not good enough, and it's not good enough by a mile.
Okay, but it was in the finals last year.
2 years ago.
And I'm going to stop. This is what I'm going to do.
Keep using that card, Dano.
This is what I'm going to do, because locally, I have heard from people locally that think that this show's coverage of the Miami Heat has been bad because of how emotional the coverage is. It is one game into a playoff series that they should not win. One game into a playoff series where they look overwhelmed, and also you're allowed to say they had a lot of injuries this year. You would not be wrong to say that 2 straight play-in tournament games would suggest that the time to sell on Jimmy and everybody would have been 2 years ago, because Bam needs to be better. Bam can't carry a team, and you need somebody better than Jimmy, which is the same conversation we were having when he got here, that Jimmy Butler can't be your best player. But then they got to the finals twice with Jimmy Butler, and yes, they've used up his legs. They've used up his spring, and it would be better with an onerous contract to get rid of that earlier. But they were in the finals last year.
The Phoenix Suns were in the finals 3 years ago, and they totally changed over their roster. They're not good enough.
Guys,
like, what is this?
Hold on a second.
They were in the finals 2 years ago? Jimmy Butler looked like a different human being 2 years ago.
Last year he did.
He's washed.
But you're also...
Comparatively, he's washed.
He's not washed.
Okay. But you're comparatively to what he was last year, he can't do the same things. You held him all season long for this run, and his body betrayed him because he wouldn't go straight up because he doesn't even have faith in his own body.
Dynamite.
Wake the hell up, Heat fans.
Okay,
You're so far gone from being a contender right now. You are an afterthought. Quit failing every offseason, and this show in particular has done a bad job of covering this team because they've been carrying water for this franchise for 4 years, and they just turn around and say they made a bubble final, and they narrowly escaped the play-in and blew in a 3-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're a joke right now. Everyone's laughing at them.
Okay.
Do better.
Let's go hide in Sawgrass.
Unlike Mike, I am not a Heat fan, so I'm not going to get quite that emotional. By and large, I agree with Mike. I do not agree that Jimmy
They brought Josh Richardson onto the roster.
I do not.
Their whole big solution was, okay, we're sorry about the Kyle Lowry thing, which I fucking nailed, by the way, and they added Terry Rozier.
Jimmy Butler is not washed, but he can't be your best player.
They're trying to kill me.
They're trying to kill Mike.
Bradley Beal was like, I thought I was going to Miami. What the hell happened? Mickey Harrison's like, I don't want to print shirts anymore. I don't want to pay a luxury taxes. And I'm over to HBO.
You got lucky on that Bradley Beal thing, huh?
I mean, we'll see. The playoffs are really how you judge them. But that does seem like
I still argue that wash should be a good thing. If you're washed, you're clean, you're feeling fresh. Why is washed a bad thing?
6 goddamn years I've been talking about the ambition inside of Bam Adebayo, and he's got motivational quotes on his locker. It's ridiculous.
You start wondering, how do they fix this? They have the best coach in the NBA. They have all these talented players.
He
What's
shot
the
9
problem
times
here?
on playing.
That's
9
the
times.
problem.
That's terrible.
Fish rots at the head, as they say.
Tyler Hero, not good. Not a fan. Bye. Just bye. How could they bring Josh Richardson back? How could they do that to me?
I opened the segment by saying he didn't care about the Heat. He had put on the bubble wrap of I'm going to care only about the Panthers, and I worry in general about Heat fans because the last 14 years have done this to them. Stugotz is sitting here saying, "What have I had to talk about for 14 years?" For 14 years, the Miami Heat have been talked about at the top of this sport, and it's made Mike Ryan insane.
But think about where Mike is going to hide from the heat. He's going to Broward County. He's going to Sawgrass Ford. I mean, that's where he is going. It's insane.
He's in swampland to get away from this team making him crazy. But
and Ed Morse, of course.
Let's do Let's do this segment here with Ron Magill. We'll get back to Heat talk in a second. But people are really mad at our show, and I think from what I can gather, Mike, these are just people coming.
I'm mad at our show. You said that they were better this year. They're not. They're not a good team.
They were.
No, they were hurt. That's a roster construction. A bunch of guys that get hurt. Tyler Hero always gets hurt. Jimmy Butler gets hurt. Tyler Hero will be maddening. Bam Adebayo will confuse you. That's who they are.
Strength and conditioning problem.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that you can say they're not a good team.
You can also say that Boston got a lot better, Dan,
Yes,
because that's
agreed.
okay, but they're not close to Boston
Agreed.
right now. They're not
No,
close.
but nobody is.
Well, the Knicks are.
No,
So
nobody
why try?
is.
I don't understand.
Boston added Porzingis and Drew Holiday. We added Thomas Bryant.
Agreed.
That Max Strus ended up being a big loss, huh?
Yes, because he was a fully formed player. We're all here developing players. They're just Ron McGill's here talking.
When did the Heat become the developmental league for other teams is what I want to know.
Been to the finals 2 times.
Billy, you've been offering me a sentence of shit for 2 days.
How so?
Like where it's one
well,
sentence.
If I say more than one sentence, I get kicked out, so I got to keep it tight.
I mean, he's right. I mean, they develop other players. The other players go elsewhere. I mean, it's happening. It's going to continue to happen.
Hello, Ron.
You guys sure you want to talk to me? I think you all need some therapy over there. Things are going a little awry.
What do you think? Why don't you you go ahead and give us your assessment as a longtime friend of the show who has great concern as he looks down upon us from a more reasonable, sane place.
I'm just afraid Mike's going to blow a vessel. I like the guy. I need him for my highlight next year. I want him to settle down a little bit.
That's
feel bad.
another team.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We realize that we're not good enough. Change is coming.
They were in the finals.
And we were in the
2 years
finals.
ago.
That's what you do. Yeah. Well, got to keep up.
I mean, okay, you guys can keep saying they were in the finals last. It was less than a calendar year ago.
Same for the Cyclones.
Exactly right.
Exactly. The Cyclones were in the finals last year too.
Yeah.
And we kind of didn't get better this year.
Got to move on, Dan.
There's always next year. Cohn's ownership knows what they need to do.
Got to want to earn.
I mean, the Dodgers added Ohtani.
Right.
I mean,
got to want to learn.
Exactly right.
Got to want to earn. Got to want to learn.
And
you got to move on. They're not good enough right now. I got to do something. Dear Pat Riley, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Add somebody. Make Jimmy Butler your third best player, and you got a championship contender.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Guy don't want to earn.
Dynamite day.
Got to want to earn. Got to want to learn.
They rhyme.
Thank you. Am I right, Ron?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay.
Ron, which animals gotta want to learn, gotta want to earn the most?
The mouse. The mouse. Everything wants to eat and kill the mouse. If you don't learn, you don't earn, you're going to be eaten. How about that?
It's a gacky.
Wow. That's interesting. No,
Tony, why aren't you saying anything? You're the basketball guy there. You're probably the best player in the studio. Why aren't you saying anything?
Look, Ron, I feel like I'm co-signing everything that Mike has to say. Everything that Mike said, I agree with. Plus, I'm a Wolves guy now, Ron. I love the Wolves.
What? Really?
I'm a Wolves guy
That's
now.
it?
Yeah,
The animal.
Anthony Edwards. I was like, you know what? I like him.
You can't come back.
Wait a minute. You're now with you're a Minnesota guy now.
Right now, I'm a Minnesota guy. Until the Heat bring me back.
Wow.
Ron, why are ferrets so expensive? I was at a pet store the other day and I was buying dog food and I walked by and I saw a ferret was $400. Why do they cost so much, and are they good pets?
First of all, they have a very, very bad smell that's almost impossible to get rid of. It's a musk. Anybody who has a ferret as a ferret as a pet, you will know it the minute you walk in their house. You just kind of go, but it's horrible. Okay. Now ferrets are become like designer ferrets. You know, they have different color coats of them, so they get a little bit more expensive that way. I would never buy a ferret in a pet shop anyway. These exotic animals, even though ferrets now have been bred generations now for human care, but I would get with a reputable ferret breeder if you want to have one, but realize that this is not an animal that is going to make your environment smell good by any stretch of the imagination. They can be very curious. They can be destructive. If it's not properly raised, they can give you a really nasty bite. Remember, this animal is the descendant of the polecat, which is basically one of the most aggressive predators on the face of the planet. This thing tears up and tears up so many different things. It's amazing. So you've got an animal that, yes, generations now, they have bred them for domestication, but I would not recommend having one unless you've done a lot of research. Again, for me, the smell is the overwhelming deterrent.
Tell me more about this polecat.
The polecat is basically a wild ferret, is what it is. European wild ferret, and that's where the ferret descends from. And it is just an aggressive predator. I mean, you watch the polecat hunt mice, birds, the way it hunts. It's fast, it's vicious. You try to catch a wild polecat, and it'll tear you up. Everything tear you up, man.
Ron, my fishtail palms are overwhelmed with beautiful red cardinals, and I found out that cardinal. It's not a migratory bird, actually. They stay in Florida all season long, and I was surprised to learn that. Are there any migratory birds that just loved it so much down here, they decided to just take up full-time residence?
You know, that's a good question. The bird that comes to mind, believe it or not, is the flamingo.
New Yorkers.
Flamingos now have taken up residence in various parts of the Everglades. There's a movement now to make it the state bird of Florida. These are migratory birds, came from the Bahamas, came from Mexico, came from Cuba, and now a bunch of them are staying here year-round. And that is, to me, that's a great sign. It shows us that the Everglades restoration has been working. These animals say, hey, you know what? It's not so bad here. We don't have to leave, and we're staying. So that's a bird that comes to mind that I think can make a big impact in the next year or two.
Ron, are there animals that retire like humans in the sense that like they know this is the end of my life, let me move to like this other destination and that's where I'm going to kind of live out the rest of my life?
I'm washed.
It's not like they move from New York to Florida. No, it's not like that. But there are animals that know when they're coming towards end of life, they start distancing themselves often from the herd or from the pride. Lions will go off on their own. Elephants will often go off on their own and kind of pass away in solitude. Another thing that is always very curious, ever wonder where birds go to die? Because that's one of the biggest curious questions I've always had. You don't generally see dead birds anywhere. And yet there's thousands of them flying all over the place. Where do these birds go to die? That's an interesting, for me, I've always wanted to do a big study on that.
Ron, what animal smells the best?
You know what animal smells really good? It's called a binturong. It smells like butter popcorn.
Nice.
It's a really cool smell. Yeah, the binturong. Butter popcorn is what it smells like.
What is that? What kind of animal is that?
It's an omnivore. They call it the bear cat. Google it. You'll see it's in a family all its own.
Does not look like
it
popcorn.
looks horrifying.
Yeah, I don't want to judge this book by its cover.
Well, it smells like butter popcorn. It smells wonderful.
Is it possible birds don't die?
No, birds die. Everything
not
that lives
what's
dies.
possible,
Sometimes
Billy.
longer than
Billy,
others. But
Billy, what?
Do they ever die in midair and literally fall from the sky?
There's the binturong, and they do. They do. It's happened. These phenomenons that have happened in Europe, like huge storms, and all of a sudden, literally, it has rained dead birds. Like hundreds of them fall out of the sky dead.
Are birds subject to heart attacks?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
Wow.
Can they do anything to prevent it, like a pill or exercise or anything?
Baby
What does
aspirin.
birds do to exercise aside from flying, I guess?
Well, that's pretty good exercise, Billy. Think about it.
Yeah, it is.
I've never done it.
Are there aviary cardiologists? Is that like a specialty?
All right, Ron, I'm going to go to this video. I'm going to go to this video real quick of this man in Florida. Of course, it's a man in Florida, and he's wrestling with bare hands and with bare feet. He's wrestling in the street, in the middle of the road, in a flannel shirt and a trucker hat, a gator, an 8-foot gator. He's an MMA fighter. He went viral last year for trapping a different gator in a school parking lot. And according to Fox 35 Jacksonville, he was attending a hockey game with his family when the sheriff's office alerted the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission about the gator disturbing the peace. So they dispatched this guy because he's an official alligator trapper. What do you do with this video?
It's a look at me, Louie, as you guys would very well say. Listen, he's experienced capturing alligators. Would I have done it in bare feet? No, but what he's doing there is not as extraordinary as it seems, except when he tries to pick it up like that. That was not very smart because that alligator could thrash his head and bash him in the skull with its own. Even though the mouth is taped shut, that head is pretty much solid bone and skin. And when he thrashes back and forth, if you hit him on the side of the head, it'd be better than any hit he's ever had in any MMA fight. It could have broken his skull.
I saw a video the other day of somebody that was harassing a gator who was all tied up that way, and then they tried to put him on a truck, and it started thrashing, and it knocked him out with its head because its head is just a weapon, correct?
That's exactly right. It's like a huge bat, the solid, heavy. So him lifting it up, him getting on the alligator, taping the mouth shut, that's a pretty standard process. Anybody who has experience, it's not anything extraordinary. But then him picking it up the way he did like that was that was a look at me, Louie. That was look at me, MMA fighter, macho man.
Ron, you were rooting for the gator there, weren't you? Against that guy.
When he picked it up, I was kind of rooting that gator would whack him in the head.
Yeah, me too.
Just knocked out cold on the road. That would have been the perfect ending.
Yes, sir. Hello.
I've got another video for you from Montana. I was not aware that there were still traveling circuses, but evidently there are still traveling circuses. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did you know that there were still traveling circuses? But evidently an elephant just got loose here in the street, and this is very dangerous, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this story. There was a huge backfire of an automobile, sounded like a big gun going off, and this elephant got spooked and just started to walk away from the trainers. The trainers went back and got it. And like you, I'm still surprised that we have these traveling animal circuses. I mean, circuses, there are many traveling circuses, Cirque du Soleil type things, but they still have animals like these exotic animals like elephants. It is surprising to me. And I know that they don't have a ton of attention.
Yeah.
Why are you guys laughing so hard?
Stugotz to see an elephant walk through a parking lot.
Wait, Stugotz is legitimately delighted by this because there was something like horrible and sad and out of the past about that elephant walking past in Montana an incredibly sad casino and through a parking lot casually. It's just weird.
Yeah, the elephant went into a 7-Eleven and bought a pack of cigarettes. But my question to Ron is this.
That joke didn't really land the way you wanted it to, did it? We all just stared at you.
Didn't land at all.
How much effort would it take for an elephant to knock over a large car? Would that be simple for a full-grown elephant?
It wouldn't be simple, but it's certainly doable. We've all seen the videos of these big bulls. Now, this is a smaller Asian elephant. She didn't have any tusks or anything. She can certainly damage and rock a vehicle. I don't know about flipping it over, but she can certainly do a lot of damage. But we've all seen the videos of those big bulls in Africa that flip these massive, Land Rovers.
Right.
So
you are
you
are such a hack.
What do you mean?
You are such a hack because you're like, hey, he bought a cup of coffee, and then you forgot what your question was because your joke didn't land.
Pack of smokes.
He bought a pack of cigarettes. It's not my,
You're just
elephants smoke.
But Dan and
Not
I
a lot
were
of
on this.
people know that.
Dan and I were on the
true.
same casino though.
You're a hack. We were doing casino bit. You had to get in with it. Can you imagine the elephant smoking
All
cigarettes?
right. If the elephant goes in the casino,
Yeah,
he's allowed to smoke.
Paying cash.
That's true.
He's
using
allowed
his
to smoke
Apple
in a
card.
casino.
Yes.
Ron, do elephants smoke?
No, they don't, Billy.
Oh.
That's why they live so long. Am I right?
Hack.
7-Eleven pack of smokes.
You didn't even have a question after that.
I
like
had
you
a
were
question.
you were playing to the crowd.
How
you were,
difficult
you
would
were
it be
doing
when-
finger guns to the crowd. Hey guys, how funny am I? An elephant smoking heaters. Isn't that funny?
it's visual
Went in
humor.
and bought them himself with currency.
It's
Where does he
visual
keep
humor.
the coins?
Imagine how big a cigarette would be to be corollary to an elephant. You know, like a cigarette here in my mouth. How big would a cigarette be in an elephant's mouth? It would be the size of like a baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Would
Ron?
it use its trunk to take it out of its mouth?
I don't know.
Thank you, Ron.
The size of
I
a
really
baseball.
think.
Thank you, Ron.
You're right.
I think
Good
an
luck with the
elephant.
rest of the
Thank
show,
you,
guys.
Ron. Thank
looking,
you.
Been looking for those for a long time.
Thank you, Ron.
An elephant can grip a cigarette.
Thank
I
you,
believe
Ron.
That.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Ron will tell you, an elephant can pick up a penny, and it can.
What a delight during the break for me and Stugotz to just stare at Cody because of what he did at the end of this last segment. Just to explain to the audience, we've been talking to Ron Magill for a long time. Stugotz hasn't listened to 3/4 of what's happening when Ron Magill is talking.
But I saw an elephant.
But Stugotz got engaged in the animal segment, and I saw that flash in my old partner's eyes, and I was going to ride it into the sky. He saw an elephant near a casino, and he had something. I saw my partner invigorated because he was just titillated by an elephant walking through in Montana, a sad casino, and Greg Cody took the ball and saw the gas station and imagined a scenario where the elephant was buying a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
All of us taking us further and further away from where it is that we began the entirety of this segment with an unhinged Mike Ryan. And this is what I would say to you as someone who gets perpetually accused of carrying water for the Miami Heat. No, the standard is win the championship. That's where they put the standard. That's where the standard is expected to be. And I, as someone who's in the content business and someone who appreciates how hard it is to keep businesses functioning in South Florida, am an admirer of this team being relevant for 15 years and creating a standard where we expect it to be 2010, 2014. We're in the middle of the conversation all the time. Like that's... This team, it is somehow our birthright in this region that the Miami Heat get to feel every season what the Knicks are feeling now in the first round because they're desperate for it. And I would just ask you to stand back for a moment while all your criticism is valid at the end if they don't win the championship. And they look like, this season, that it's fallen apart. I would say there's some body issues there. You guys are always running past the injuries on everything in sport, and I think it matters that Joel Embiid isn't healthy right now.
Yeah, I'm not skipping past the body issues. The body issues specifically were why I wanted to improve the roster. What happened this season was them, for several years, striking out on an inability to improve a roster that was almost championship good. And everything just came home to roost at that point. Dan, like I don't have this impossible standard. Yes, I love Heat culture, was aiding and abetting the marketing strategy. I just don't want the arrow pointing down. We can have lateral moves as long as we're competitive, or we can have the arrow pointing up. This arrow's been pointing down since they got gentlemanly swept by the Denver Nuggets last year. There were absolutely reasons to improve this roster.
In the finals.
Yeah, reason. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, reason for encouragement to know that if you added to this roster, they could be right back there. They failed. The roster got older. They're not good enough. We are criticizing.
Okay, and let me just go back.
Better tone.
Less than 12 months and say to you, as all of us get lightheaded with loopiness because it's like, what do you mean? Jimmy Butler's Michael Jordan during the playoffs now. All of us are totally confused by it. And then when it arrived in Denver, it started to look like it had the lack of lift that you have seen this entire season in the legs. But up till the last 7 games of the season, when what they needed to beat Jokic was, hey, Jimmy, can you be Michael Jordan again? Because it's ridiculous that we now expect that from you. He then fails in the final 5 games, and you're remembering it, and I'd say misremembering it, with all this gentleman's sweep out was no good at the end, when he made all of us believe that in a 7-game series he might summon some 40-point guy, and where we're all like, who is this person?
That's your opinion. I might be. I think you're also forgetting that after he did the camera snap to Boston, and it looked like they were just running a flat track against Boston, he fell off then. And it was very perceptible to the eye, and we just chalked it up to, well, that incredible run, what he had to muster to beat Milwaukee. And then the season started, and he looked like the same guy, and he kept running into big teams, and we thought, now it's playoff Jimmy time. He even told us it's that time, and it didn't turn on. It's not like he's a 27-year-old, Dan. At a certain point, you have to realize that the window is closing, and sometimes the window closes in the NBA Finals, and that can be confusing. But this, to me, is Ric Flair. I love you. I'm sorry. You were a 16-time champion. Shawn Michaels is kicking you in the chin. You got to do something.
I think what Mike is saying is actually fair. It's much better tone. I can understand him. But what he is saying is fair. They've gotten to the finals. You're right. They haven't won when they've gotten to the NBA Finals. And all Mike is asking is, hey, Pat Riley, do what you used to do. Improve the team. Sure. Because the team up there in Boston, they're improving every single year. They're getting better, and we're not. And that's a fair ask from a big-time Heat fan. Mike is.
It is all fair. And Pat Riley, remembered in Winning Time on HBO as fuck Boston. Fuck Boston when he was with the Lakers. Fuck Boston when he was with New York. And then when Danny Ainge comes out and says what he says is the head of the Boston organization, he sends out a team spokesman when they're fouling LeBron and says, fuck Boston again. Pat Riley, at near 80 years old, has been fighting at the top of the conference with this organization and has won for 5 years. And after a sex scandal that makes their exceptional coach great in Houston, Brad Stevens appointed himself when Danny Ainge left as the top of that organization, and the trade he made is a monster. The 2 guys he added in Holiday and Porzingis are obvious, yes, 3rd and 4th pieces on championship teams. We've seen that happen before. Boston got better fast, and the conference has now been taken from them by Boston and executiveship as your team has fallen behind Boston. It can't be disputed. I'm simply saying we got drunk on the fumes of playoff Jimmy will always be here when it matters, and you just can't expect 45-point games every time out from that guy.
That's what Mike is saying and what Greg is saying.
We agree.
Like, you guys are agreeing, but there's also a middle ground between 2010 and play-in games every season, hoping that you advance to the next round. And, like, what you're saying is look back 12 months, but their job is to look forward 12 months, look forward 24 months. And they're not saying get rid of Jimmy entirely. It's give Jimmy pieces to make it not have to be something that's so reliant on Jimmy. Make him a 3 so you don't need playoff Jimmy. And
correct.
It's not unfair to say that.
I was enjoying beating Boston. And while we were beating Boston, I was also saying I'd trade Jimmy Butler for LeBron James tomorrow. Yeah. I knew what was happening when it was happening, that it was an outlier. And I was always saying, this team is not good enough. This is wild. This is unprecedented. I'm going to enjoy listening to EEI with the rest of you. I love beating New York, but we are not positioned well. I was saying it then. I said it throughout the offseason. You want to talk about they made it to the NBA Finals last year? Boston made it to the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They totally changed out what was a young roster. Milwaukee won the championship 3 years ago.
Did the hard thing by getting rid of Marcus Smart, who was the leader of the team.
Golden State had the best season in the history of the NBA, and they added Kevin Durant.
They succeeded where Miami's failed.
But what do you want me to say? I'm not here to argue that
you are, because you're telling me that they were in the finals last year, to which I say, so what?
Yeah, because I would add, I think you do overemphasize they made the finals last year, because this is also true. 2 years in a row in a play-in tournament is a warning signal. It's flashing red. It's warning you you're not that good.
You know
a lot
Though?
of teams make the playoffs in the NBA.
Okay.
If you have to fight through a play-in tournament 2 years in a row, not a good sign.
The fact that this entire crew doesn't see the absurdity in they were in the finals last year, so what? Like, doesn't see the absurdity.
Did we not give them their flowers?
No, I'm just
Did we
saying.
not-
I'm
did we not
just
give them
saying.
their flowers?
I'm just saying that the Panthers got a lot of flowers from you for the first time of ever doing anything over the last 25 years.
What does my Panther fandom have to do?
Pat Riley not had his
God Bill
ass kissed
Zito
enough around here lately.
Thank
I
God
don't
Bill
understand.
Zito did what Pat Riley failed to do, which is realize I'm not good enough. I need to make a drastic move, and it worked immediately. What does my Panther fandom have to do with anything?
Because of where the standard has been put on all of this stuff, you feel entitled to I'm in the championship
I don't feel
game.
entitled.
So what?
I
What
don't
do you
feel
mean?
entitled.
How
I'm a
can you
sports
say?
fan. I want my team to be championship good. If that's entitlement, every sports fan is entitled. Like I thank you. I love beating Boston.
This is where they've put the standard because they've
What
created.
do I have to walk over there across the street, take my shirt off, and say Stella?
No,
I'm very thankful for that. But also, I'm a sports fan. I want my team to win.
But you're a sports fan who is saying, because this is, I think we can all agree, it sounds like we've been arguing. Yes, of course, improve the team always, every year. Nobody disagrees with that.
Well, they do. Because they failed. Do it. Do it. It's been 4 years of me saying, hey, great year. We're this close. And then some other team gets closer.
I have a question for the class. Greg, you as well. So this team's championship window is closing. Dan, do you agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this team's championship window is closing in the offseason. You want, not that he's a one anymore, but would you trade Pat Riley for LeBron James straight up?
And you get Bronny.
And you get Bronny. Is that a piece you would take on this Heat team, LeBron James? But he says the only way I'm coming back
Do
is
you understand
no
that when you ask me, has their championship window closed, that when they were with Hassan Whiteside and Deion Waiters, and I didn't think there was any opportunity to get Jimmy Butler, and they did get Jimmy Butler, if you'd asked me then, hey, Dan, is their championship window closed? Yes, if he's their best player. Yes, that's a nice free agent acquisition, and Amin and everyone else is making fun of me saying, no, he's a superstar. You don't know it yet. He's a superstar. And then he comes to Miami, and he becomes a superstar.
Mike, Bill Zito or Pat Riley? You could only have one.
I mean, right now, it's Zito. He's got his whole career ahead of him.
Would you trust Bill Zito to rebuild the Miami Heat?
I'm trying to have serious conversations.
I am too.
And
if Riley could make
the other one was going nowhere.
If Riley could make a trade the equivalent of Kachuk for Uberdo, then the Heat have a championship contender.
It's summer after summer.
That's good commentary. Yes, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's been there for them.
If
It's
they
been
could
there
just
for
get
them.
Anthony Edwards, do it. He
now
got
we're
LeBron.
talking.
Yeah.
It was done on the hockey side of town.
The trade piece has been on this roster the entire time, and they haven't brought themselves to it, which is bam. That's been the trade piece. The difficult trade to make has been on their roster for 5 years, and they haven't wanted to make it.
In the league, according to Stan Van Gundy.
You need to stop doing that. You need to stop doing that.
Did Stan say that?
No.
I didn't listen yesterday.
It was Jeff.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
No.
The Van Gundys.
You're going to get me. Like, you need to stop doing that. Okay? It's not a request.
Sorry.
You need to stop doing that, okay? Because you're going to cause me a problem. I hate when this happens. I just got a text here vigorously siding with me on this, saying the Heat literally won more games with the most starting lineups in the history of the franchise. Something that would allow me to have a winning argument, but it was sent by Jeremy.
I called it from back here. I was like, "Oh, Jeremy, text me, please."
As soon as you started talking,
And I hate my ally here, and I surrender. I will put my sword down, carrying water for the Miami Heat. My only point is, you say that the Heat have to improve. My only point is that it's just hard to be this good for this long, and I wouldn't take it for granted. It's an unusual thing to have a franchise get roster turnover and give you sustained excellence and relevance. I would just, I would not be so busy round one, game one of a series of the playoffs that your standard has gotten so high that you can't appreciate that you basically just had what the Knicks season was by a game or two. Look at how New York enjoys it because they've been starved for it, and look at how Miami reacts to it because it's not good enough, and it's not good enough.
I really don't think anyone on this show takes them for granted. I think everyone is well aware of how great this organization has been for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
Like, I think everyone knows that.
It's the only reason this market has been relevant in sports for 20 years nationally.
And I think everyone understands that. And the Yankees have been, relevant in New York forever, but they continue to try and get better. And that's all people are asking. That's all Mike is asking. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can respect what the organization has done, and certainly I think everyone does. And you can also ask that same organization, hey, you set the bar so high. Like, go find some pieces. Get us back to that place. I want to get back there. Get us back there. We have the guy to get us back there, and he's not getting us back there.
The ultimate compliment to the Pat Riley Spoelstra regime is the dissatisfaction being felt by 2 play-in seasons in a row. There's a big gulf between the Knicks winning the number 2 seed and the Heat going through the purgatory of a play-in again.
I just need to stop everything that we're doing here because we are the playoffs have just started. Okay,
I'm exhausted.
But it's not going to last long.
Playoffs have been incredible.
They haven't started. A road team hasn't won.
True.
I mean,
this is. I just want to take
close to starting
some inventory of what's happening around here because I think Mike Ryan said that on the way in, he was listening to multiple Maple Leaf podcasts. And I think Chris Cody said he was scouring Philadelphia sports radio last night. And I just realized that one game into this postseason, this show is now that flavor to America that the most enjoyment, the people who love this show and hate its fandom, the most enjoyment that's possible is listen to the hour that they just did, throwing feces at each other, caring deeply about sports in a way that's fundamentally unreasonable. After one game, it's dynamite time over here.
TNT.
Over here, it's dynamite time. And over there, it's just total madman.
I broke a bobblehead of Lucy's, literally pounding
We got to
the
put it
table
in the back over there, yeah.
because I mentioned Kyle Lowry's name. I don't take them for granted. I'm passionate about my sports teams very clearly, and I feel like we've seen this day coming. So I don't want to talk in circles. Instead, I'd rather move the puck around the blue line.
Okay, and we will talk hockey in a second, but not before we play again this video of Kyle Lowry in the scrum yesterday because it is 38.
It's fantastic.
It's 38.
That's his career right
there.
there.
Wait a minute. That's a Hall of Fame career. That's a Hall of a Hall of Fame career. His career is not falling out of bounds, but he has spent the last 5 years doing that. Kyle Lowry was supposed to be that fourth piece. Hall of Famer Kyle Lowry.
Well, to some, but when he was acquired, I'm like, not my favorite, but okay, we trust him.
He made some plays last night.
They lost you on Terry Rozier. They lost you.
I wasn't a fan of the Kyle Lowry thing, but to go through all these pursuits and for them to have the nerve to come back to me with Josh Richardson after everything that I'd been through, that was very disrespectful. And I still haven't been apologized to.
Chris Cody, I heard you and Billy talking about a booth anxiety that the two of you had that I wasn't totally understanding because you called it a social anxiety.
Well, my dad brought this up as well. It's really the stress. If you're ever going to lunch with 3 people, the stress when approaching a booth. Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be one person's going to get to be sit by themselves, and the other two are going to be crammed in there.
Yeah.
Are you the jerk that just establishes one side and gets your elbows real wide?
I do that.
Your dad's very selfish at all turns.
I sit big on my side of the booth. My knees are apart. My elbows are like this. I will in a threesome. I will be the guy who sprints.
Baby.
I will sprint to the booth to be the first one seated.
You also have these rules where you need to have your back to the, like, my dad never wants to sit with his back to the door. He's got to have it. Basically, when we go to
Old
dinner,
mafia thing,
when we go to dinner as a family, it's basically let Greg pick the seat he wants because he's going to complain.
Of course.
It's the least you can do.
Yeah. I'm the patriarch of the family.
I'm the man. Is that what you were about to say?
Patriarch.
No,
he didn't say Dan. He didn't say that.
Patriarch
he said
does
the
not
patriarch.
start with an M.
I'm the patriarch.
He got halfway through man, and it's only one syllable, and he cut him.
I started to say matriarch,
Silent
and then I
N,
realized
yeah.
I was about to misspeak,
Patriarch.
so I said patriarch.
But the bad spot that you get put in is when you're the third person. So two people have sat, and now you have to be the jerk of like, who am I going to screw here?
Yeah. 2 is ideal, right? You want to be 2 or you want to be 1? Because 2, you could take your time. 1 has already gotten there, and they're in. 2, you take your time.
Take your time.
Then 3 goes into where 1 was, I would think.
If there's 2, you saunter.
Chris, would you not describe your father as aggressively selfish?
I don't want to say that out loud.
Oh, geez.
But yes.
Selfish. Because I want to be the one who chooses where to sit.
You just think that you think in your family that you deserve all of the best things.
He's the Pingu.
I'm the patriarch.
Dad, what's your slogan in a car when we're on a family road trip? And there's maybe air conditioning dilemmas. What is your saying?
Me maximum.
Yeah.
Well, you also say driver comfort is paramount.
Well, driver comfort is paramount.
Yeah, me maximum.
Me maximum.
Yeah, exactly
me
right.
maximum.
No, me maximum. No, me maximum was in hotel rooms when you want the TV off, but everyone else wants it on. You would say me maximum TV.
Right.
Well, hold on a second. When you're on an airplane, is it selfish for you to put on the oxygen mask first before you assist others? No.
Right.
The pilot instructs you to.
How do
need
you
to
save
take
everyone
care-
else if you're not saving
Exactly right.
yourself?
You got to
That's
take care of old number 1 first, and
What-
then you're able to take care of the others.
But what the shit does me maximum mean?
I get
that's
it.
a
I
thing.
get it, Greg.
Me
I get it.
maximum.
Me maximum. I need more air.
But I'm
gets
telling you,
me.
picture a dark room with like the TV on and my dad trying to sleep, wanting it off, and just out loud saying to the room, me maximum TV.
Well,
And I'm 9 years old, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
I mean, I'm in a hotel room.
Yeah.
I can't leave. I can't go someplace. I'm
Didn't
trapped.
you sleep in the bathtub once because we wouldn't turn off the
Well,
TV?
only because you wouldn't.
No, it was the family. Me, Mom, Michael.
No, if I were to bet, if we were to take bets around here, who was it, Michael or Chris? I think we can all. It was Christopher that didn't want to turn off the television.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he thought me maximum, but he's not maximum. You're maximum.
Right. Well, I'm maximum when I need
He
my
minimum.
sleep. I'm the driver of the family. I'm the one. I'm going to be balling the jack tomorrow, driving about 600 miles. I need my sleep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a TV blaring at 11 p.m.
Ungodly
at night. I mean,
hours.
what's going on? Me
I'd like to
maximum.
know the genesis of me maximum. I would like to bring in your mother on this to explain to me the origins
She
and
maximum.
what it means. Because I don't believe that it should be you maximum all the time.
It isn't.
But you are aggressively selfish, as I
Well-
mentioned, and it's commemorated by me maximum.
Okay.
I would put it on your tombstone
me maximum. When
to the very end.
when Christopher mentions that driver comfort is paramount, okay, when I'm driving, if I ask for the air conditioning, and more often than not, I ask for the air conditioning to be pointed away from me because the wife loves air conditioning. She'll put it down to 40 degrees if she could.
A giving man.
I don't
you are.
want
Right in
cold,
your face,
I don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
artificial cold air blowing on me when I'm driving.
But Greg, that's only once you've reached your maximum.
right.
Right? Because
Yes.
if it's hot, you need that
maximum.
air going to your
Exactly,
way.
right.
But then when you get a little chilly, I can defer to others. But first,
Yes.
driver needs to be comfort,
Yes.
and then everybody else
Your
is back.
lives are in Greg's hands when Greg is driving you around.
right.
Driver's
thing is-
comfort is paramount.
No, but you guys
Thank
don't
you.
like. He could just say, "Hey, can we turn the air down?" But no, he speaks in these like sayings, like driver comfort is paramount. Like, what does that mean, Dad?
Me maximum is something a gladiator would
It's
say.
great.
Like, what do you mean?
That's me maximus.
It is the greatest. Me maximum is his self-absorption on maximum display. I wasn't listening to the last 90 seconds though, because I was just laughing at Kyle Lowry in the corner of my screen. Can you put this behind me, please, on the video? Can you put it on the wall behind me so that I could just have me carried to break by this? Because this is a Hall of Fame career. And in the middle of that scrum yesterday, because this is where Stugotz is trying to cut the line here ahead of the process, right? And team building. New York trying to get out in front of Philadelphia we're talking about how organizations are built. The Knicks have fixed something fundamental. The people in charge there have relationships. They brought Jalen Brunson over with one of them, and they fixed some things. And now they're at the top of the conference fighting a Philadelphia team.
Right.
That tanked several seasons in order to be that kind of good.
They've made a lot of great moves. The Knicks have. They've signed a lot of the right players, but Dan, they're still not close to Boston. I don't mean to bring this full circle, but they're very good. This is very exciting, and we'll take it. Like, we will take it.
Okay, but
win a round, we'll take it. Go to the Eastern Conference Final, fine. They're not beating Boston.
The part that I'm interested in, though, is the last 10 years of this story. The Sixers, what they've been doing, who they have now, and how they head into the fight. They've got their MVP organizationally. Stugotz, look, their win now. It's Batum. It's Lowry. It's a bunch of old dudes. They were trying to do it with P.J. Tucker. James Harden comes in. You get that experience for a little while. And now it gets belched out the side. Neither one of them were able to topple Miami or Boston. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it again. And now New York's in the fray.
Yep.
New York wasn't in the fray before.
No.
New York had not earned the fray for 20 years. And they're in the top two. And this is the stuff that makes it cool when history gets passed down, when you're watching what happens. And, hey, is Joel Embiid is he going to be an underachiever forever? Is he going to be someone I'm going to be able to tell my kids, oh, no, that wasn't Wilt? You wouldn't understand. But, no, he never won anything. Why didn't he win anything? Oh, that Jokic extraterrestrial that ruined everything for everybody. Doesn't even jump. Wins the championship.
I mean, that went south in Philadelphia the second they did not take Jason Tatum when they had the chance to take Jason Tatum. Imagine Tatum and Embiid together.
It went south for 10 years. They took away the GM's job and gave it to a Colangelo because they were so aggressively losing to get into this position. It's been 10 years to get to here, and it's still Embiid grumbling into a towel saying, we're the better team, as again, you don't trust them to get to the second round. Me maximum.